All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Dodgers at the All-Star break. For the last 53 games, they are 27-26, treading water. The rotation as thin as I've ever seen it. And joining us right now is Alanna Rizzo. Alanna, how you been?
Hello. Good to be with you guys. If you actually do know Dua Lipa, please give her my best. She is incredibly talented and quite beautiful.
I will mention it to her the next time I see her. So, Alanna, how do we promote you? I know you're MLB Network, but I see you pop up on a podcast regularly on Twitter. Where can people get you right now?
Well, I appreciate that. Yes, I'm still doing High Heat with Christopher Russo on MLB Network Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to noon Eastern. And then I am on the Foul Territory platform with Dodgers Territory with Clint Casillas. That happens on Mondays and Thursdays, as well as Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. We do that show together on Thursday. So just check us out on Foul Territory TV for all the programming.
Awesome. So I'm looking at the rotation, and it's just the way they drew it up. I mean, you got Gavin Stone and James Paxton. Finally, Justin Robleski arrives, maybe some River Ryan. Could you imagine that this rotation, which seems so loaded at the start of the year, would come down to this?
Well, Mace, I've been saying this since before the season started. I didn't think our starting staff, and I say our because I still believe blue. I mean,
sure.
In full transparency, I still love that team very much. I always will. But I didn't think that the Dodgers had enough starting pitching depth even on the onset. And this was before, obviously, Yamamoto went on the IL. This was before Bobby Miller, came back and now is struggling again. I think he needs to get his confidence back, at least with him. I don't think it's physical. I think it's more mental and between the ears. I really wanted Andrew, and obviously there's still time before the deadline to go after a frontline starter. But now with the, Dustin May situation, with Buehler, with all the things, I think they need two relatively good arms. I would not have, penciled in River Ryan getting his debut, Gavin Stone being probably our number two behind Glasnow, who is on the IL with back tightness, which I think that's just a situation of just giving him a blow. Watching the innings. I don't think he's that hurt. And you have Justin Robleski and Landon Knack. That's not a playoff rotation. Are they talented? Of course. Are they coming up out of necessity? Yes.
You talk about adding more arms to the rotation. If you had the top of your wish list, is it Tariq Skubal? Is it Garrett Crochet? Is it somebody else if they could bring in another arm?
There's not a ton of people out there, really. I mean, if everyone keeps saying Tariq Skubal and Garrett Crochet, I have issues with both of them. Do I like the talent? Obviously. But when you look at Garrett Crochet, I mean, he's on an innings limit. I mean, he has already thrown more innings already than he's ever had in the past. And Dodgers are going to get into the postseason. We all know that.
Yep.
Barring an absolute tidal wave of a collapse, they're getting into the postseason. They need arms for that playoff time frame. And I think, what can you get realistically from Garrett Crochet when you need him the most?
Right.
So that's a consideration. As far as Tariq Skubal is concerned, that's going to demand a massive haul. Tariq Skubal still is under team control. And the Tigers, why would they trade the front runner in the American League for the Cy Young Award right now? I mean, you want to build around that guy. So what does that say to their fan base? And to me, like, for example, if it's not the Dodgers, let's say the Orioles could go after Tariq Skubal because they need somebody besides Corbin Burns and Grayson Rodriguez. That's kind of asking for a Jackson Holiday type.
Right.
And the Orioles are not going to do that, nor should they, because he's a part of their future. Holiday is. But you're going to have to get a massive haul for Tariq Skubal. So how about this, for example? Why doesn't Andrew Friedman call his old employer at the Tampa Bay Rays and say, hey, I will take Zach Eflin.
Yep.
I will take Isaac Paredes at third base because we need a third baseman.
Nice.
Max Muncy earlier today on Foul Territory told the guys that he is nowhere near coming back.
Wow.
So we need a third baseman, and we also could get Randy Arozarena in the deal to kind of solidify the outfield. I understand he's having a down year. I get that. But the Dodgers are very good at allowing guys to have success, be who they are, let them be who they are. So you get Zach Eflin, Isaac Paredes at third, and then you get Randy Arozarena, who we know what he's capable of doing, right? Perhaps a change of scenery. We hear that all the time. Could allow him to get back to the numbers that we know he's capable of producing. And the Dodgers have enough in their farm system. It's not a Jackson Holiday farm system right now.
Yep.
But they have enough to be able to get those three guys. And you're not having to give up the haul that Tarek Skubal would require, and you're not going after a guy that you don't know for certain in Garrett Crochet that he's going to be able to help you in the postseason.
Right. So a couple other names that I find interesting, Alanna, and these are, I guess these are probably smaller deals as opposed to kind of the pieces you're moving around. Jack Flaherty in Detroit, Eric Fetty with the White Sox, who's actually having a really good year. Those two guys I kind of like. They're actually both having really good years right now. What do you think of those ideas?
I like it, and that's not something, again, that you're going to have to give up a lot to get. I think Eric Fetty, I think the White Sox would be stupid to get rid of him for the same reason I think Detroit would be stupid to get rid of Tarek Skubal. Eric Fetty is a guy that, in addition to perhaps, Luis Robert Jr. and Garrett Crochet, you kind of work your way around building a team around. I mean, Eric Fetty is a really good young arm, and to me, with what the White Sox have not accomplished this year, if you get rid of Fetty and Crochet or one of the other, that tells me as a fan that you don't think you're going to do much for years to come.
Right.
Jack Flaherty, I like. I don't know. You don't know what Jack Flaherty you're going to get. Is it, Jack Flaherty early in his Cardinals career? Is it Jack Flaherty late in his Cardinals career? Is it Jack Flaherty now with the Tigers? I don't know, but that's certainly something I would entertain.
I mean, Alanna, I know making a move is definitely imperative for this team, but I think a lot of these problems get solved with guys getting healthy. A healthy Mookie Betts, do they put him back at second base and sort of move on from the Gavin Lux experiment, or do they try him back at shortstop again?
That's a tough question, and I think the middle of the infield is an issue for the Dodgers. And I think when you look at their first-round draft pick, Kellen Lindsey, while I don't think he's going to be at the big league level, in a year or two, although they're bringing guys up so freaking fast now, who knows?
I know.
I think that they don't believe that Gavin Lux is the answer at short, and I don't think Mookie in the long term is the answer at short. So I don't know where they kind of slide him back in. I think the good thing is Mookie is such a good athlete that you can put him there in the short term. What scares me about a guy that is transitioned to that position, it's such a heavy defensive position and such an imperative position in the infield that over the course of 162, you can deal with somebody that doesn't come up as a shortstop, as good of an athlete as Mookie is. In a 5-game series, you have 2 games where there's 1 error a game.
Yep.
You lose the series. And that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I would much rather see Miguel Rojas stay at short. I know he doesn't hit quite. I mean, he's not the offensive pop that everybody else has got, but I do think him at short because of his glove, and Mookie slides back to second, and then your middle infield becomes a little bit more stable.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have to platoon second for a while until, if you have to do that, I agree with you. I think you have a Miguel Rojas who is going to post defensively. I don't care what he does with his bat, only because we have the length of the lineup to be able to supplement what he doesn't do for you. But I'll take Miguel Rojas's, even at his age, and I can say this because I could be his mother, I'll take Miguel Rojas's glove any day of the week and forego the offense that you would hope to get from your shortstop.
So I have always been an enormous Kenley Jansen fan. First of all, I think he's a fantastic guy, one of the nicest guys I've ever covered. Easy smile. I thought always really, occasionally it was an adventure, but I thought more often than not, Kenley did nail down the save. He's having a really good year in Boston. Boston, I guess now is 4.5 games out of a wild card spot, so maybe that changes their equation. But Kenley was talking about the Dodgers this week. Do you think there's a chance he winds up back in L.A. Before the trade deadline?
It's a good question. I know he wants to retire as a Dodger, but he also wants to play for a lot longer. So if he does come back, he's not retiring this year, right?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. It is a bit of an adventure. I mean, he seems to get guys on base a lot, but he seems to be able to get out of the jams as well. I would not mind having Kenley back. I've said this before. Now, I've heard, again, speculation that, okay, maybe we get Kenley back and you trade away Walker Buehler. I'm not willing to do that personally. But I would love to see Kenley back in a situation where he has an opportunity to win another ring. Obviously, the Dodgers have an opportunity to get him there. There's so much of a logjam in the wild card races right now that this next 10 to 12 days is going to be imperative to see who actually is logistically available to go to buyers, because there's so many teams that are still in the hunt. And if you're the Red Sox and you don't go for it when you have an opportunity, like they didn't go for it last year, they're going to burn down Fenway.
Philosophically, I mean, does it make sense in this big picture for Major League Baseball to maybe think about moving the trade deadline? Because now with the extra wild card spots, so many more teams seem to have a chance. It just feels like end of July, we're not going to have as many sellers as we used to in the past.
You know, I don't know about that, only because I'm not a huge fan of the third wild card spot. I think that, again, from a fan perspective, you have a better chance, obviously, of your team making it into the postseason. But I don't like it. I don't ever want it to become like how the NBA is, where it seems like everyone and their mother gets in. I like the fact that I think winning your division should mean something. And I think, you know, you should, I think the seeding in the postseason should be a little bit different. I think Atlanta, you know, got screwed last year. I think the Dodgers got screwed a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know about moving the trade deadline. What I would like to see, and I know it won't happen because it doesn't, the union will never allow for it to happen.
Right.
As I really wish there was some sort of deadline in the off season where you had to have guys signed by a certain time. I think that makes it a lot more exciting for the fan than the middle of the year trade deadline. I think if you had to have guys signed, let's say look at Blake Snell.
And nothing drifts into the spring. Yeah, Blake Snell signing.
Scott Morris hates every bit of this.
I know he does, and I understand it from an agent perspective, from a player perspective, it sucks. But from a league perspective and a fan perspective, it's awesome. It means more, you know. Like you're not, like you said, you're not, you know, sneaking into spring training the first week of the season and guys aren't signed yet. Like major guys not signed yet.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Alanna, this is great. I would love to have you back on a regular basis. You're so good, and I've known you for so long, and you do such a good job, especially on the Dodgers. So we love having you. Thank you very much for coming on.
It is truly my pleasure. I'm happy to be with you guys anytime. Thanks for having me.